Hey guys, LevelCap here. Today we're going to be talking about the UMP-9, one of the, I wouldn't say hardest guns to unlock, but the most tedious weapon in the game to unlock. And this is how you do it. You got to get a buttload of repair ribbons, 50 repair ribbons to be exact, and you just want to sit here in the scat helicopter, repair while it gets shot up. Eventually you'll get your 50. It might take you, 20 rounds or more, and then you unlock the UMP-9. This is the last gun I unlocked in the entire game. Again, not because it's difficult, but just because it's tedious. I would still say that the FYJS requires the most skill to unlock, but the UMP-9 requires the most patience. Now, there is another UMP in the game, the UMP-45, which shoots a higher caliber round, the 845 ACP. It actually does 34 damage maximum. I love that gun. I've already done a loadout with that weapon, and it works really well. How does the UMP-9 stack up to it? Well, because it's using a essentially 9mm round. It's not going to do as much damage per shot. It only does 25 per shot, but it tries to make up for this by increasing the rate of fire to 700 rounds per minute over the UMP-45 600 rounds per minute. The 45 is also limited to a 25 round magazine, and the only way to tell apart these two weapons is by their actual magazines. The UMP-9 has a curved mag while the UMP-45 has a straight mag. Alright, let's try and figure out where the UMP-9 offers some benefits over other UMPs, or other PDWs rather, and the UMP-45, which I gotta say is going to be a tough gun to beat because it's one of my favorite PDWs out there. Now, this stat chart here provided by Simthic.com shows us that we've still got the 1.85 second short reload time, and this is going to be great for close quarter combat. If you don't have to think about your reloads too much, you can drop one enemy, hit that reload button, you'll have another mag ready to go in under 2 seconds. Below that 1.85 second stat, we have a 2.5 second reload time, which is for the long reload. This is if you shoot out every bullet in the gun and you have to rechamber a round when you reload the weapon. It's going to take a little bit longer, and this is something that you want to try and avoid, especially in close quarter combat. At long range, it's not as big a deal if you have a lot of time to kind of hang out behind cover and wait for that 2.5 second reload. As far as the recoil goes, we have a pretty low recoil overall, a 0.2 pull left and a 0.2 pull right. This means that in terms of left to right recoil management, you're not going to have to really do anything. And as far as the vertical recoil goes, we have a 0.26 vertical pull, which is pretty low, and we only have a 1.5 first shot multiplier, meaning that your first shot is going to kick up a tiny bit more than the follow-up shots. Overall, the recoil on this gun is very easy to manage, and it's because it shoots such a small caliber round, and DICE has essentially made the statistics reflect that. Now, despite its low recoil, it's not going to matter too much for long-range targets because your aiming down sight accuracy isn't particularly great with 0.4. However, you do have a pretty tight hipfire grouping, which is standard for PDWs. A lot of the PDWs are intended for good hipfire accuracy, and you can make that even better if you put a laser sight on there. Now, I have a laser sight and a suppressor, which kind of counteract each other, so I still maintain a pretty decent hipfire, but I stay off the mini-map with that suppressor. But I also become slightly more visible with the laser sight. So there's sort of pros and cons to using the laser and suppressor combo together. Personally, I'm a really big fan of using this combination with pretty much all PDWs, mostly because the bullet velocity on your average PDW is very low, and the suppressor drops that bullet velocity to around 300 meters per second. So if you already have a PDW that's shooting at a very, very low bullet velocity, you're not getting a huge penalty from that suppressor. So it works out really well with PDWs, and as we can see, the UMP-9 has a 370 meters per second bullet velocity, so you're really not losing a lot off of your bullet speed. And one nice thing about the UMP weapons in Battlefield 4 is that they allow you to have a underslung spot for a grip. Not all PDWs actually have rail space for a grip. That's something you'll notice with guns like, say, the P90. You don't actually have that extra accessory option there. But because the UMP does allow you for that, I like to run with the ergo grip or the vertical grip because it basically tightens your grouping of fire while you're on the move, which again enhances your hipfire capabilities. And if you got to use side strafing and dodging to win firefights, then it's going to be excellent. Since the gun isn't particularly effective at long range to begin with, using something like a stubby grip or a potato grip really isn't going to help you out too much. And having an angled foregrip again isn't going to help you too much because that first shot shot multiplier is so low, I really think the only way to go with this weapon is using an ergo or vertical grip. So I've already explained that I personally like to run with a laser and suppressor for most of my PDWs, but say that's not your style. Say you want to get the most accurate hipfire possible. Well, instead of going muzzle brake or compensator, because the recoil on this weapon is already pretty darn low, I would recommend just leaving a barrel attachment off or going for the flash hider once you unlock that, just to maintain your really accurate hipfire and keeping the laser sight on there. That's going to be a really good way to go. You'll also be popping up on the minimap when you fire, which in some ways can be a benefit, especially if you're trying to lure people to your position. One area that you should absolutely try and avoid using the UMP-9 for is long range combat. I'm not saying you can't drop people at long range, but they better be standing still and they better not be returning fire, because this gun does such poor damage at range. Its drop off goes down to 12.1 damage, meaning you're gonna have to put a lot of rounds into your opponent before they actually go down. And with a bullet velocity of 370 meters per second and a crappy aiming down sight accuracy, you're gonna miss a lot of those shots. So you're probably gonna need a full mag just to drop somebody who's not even moving at long range. So I would just suggest trying to get in close quarters, adapting your playstyle for nothing but close quarter combat. You see somebody at long range, you might even want to ignore them or try and get in closer to them. Use their cover, move around tactically, and just get up close in people's faces. As you can see here from my footage, most of this combat is right in people's faces. I'm making sure I'm like 20 meters or closer for most of my engagements. Overall, I gotta say I'm pretty disappointed with the performance of the UMP-9, especially considering how tedious it is to unlock this weapon. If you have the UMP-45, there's very little reason to go for the UMP-9. The recoil is incredibly easy to control, so if you don't have good recoil management skills, it might be a fun weapon for you, but ultimately, I would say the UMP-45 makes this weapon obsolete. But if you're like me and you gotta unlock every gun in the game, go for it, give it a try, just don't be surprised when its performance isn't everything you hoped for. That pretty much wraps it up for the UMP-9 review. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time. This is LevelCap, signing off.